listening to Reviewing History, your comedy history podcast. I'm filmmaker and teacher Brian Rupert, joined here by
filmmaker and teacher Steve Medagliaco,
and filmmaker and teacher Anthony Galati.
Oh wow, was this coup planned?
Nope.
Was this coup d'etat planned?
No, it was not.
Not a fan of this.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Steve could say it. I
could
don't
say
know
it.
about you.
I could say it.
You could say,
Not everybody's got those grade A credentials.
you could say actor. I'll let you say actor because you've acted.
I've done some acting. I've done some summer stuff.
Everybody's a teacher.
I won't allow teacher.
Everybody's a teacher. In one way or another.
Who's taught?
You should say your real career.
No.
Mechanical engineer. You know, like.
I'm not saying my real career. No one needs to know that.
So we're joined here today in holy matrimony.
Wait, why
We have gathered here today.
We're doing a wedding. So we're here today to talk about a franchise I really, really love. The new movie that just came out about a year ago, delayed from the pandemic, The Kingsman, which is the most recent movie we've done on the show.
Yes.
Yep.
By quite a bit.
We
Yes.
really jumped.
What is the... Is it Gladiator?
No, it's the next closest after this is Last Samurai.
Yeah, that makes sense. We'd like to go old, generally.
So when I picked this, what were your initial thoughts?
You're lying.
Me personally?
Yeah.
I've never seen any of these movies, but I knew it was like a quirky, like almost comic booky type movie, and I'm like, oh, Brian's trying to ruin the show.
I was in agreement with that.
Did I ruin the show?
No.
No. However, I will say this. This movie, I enjoyed it. It is one of the most batshit crazy movies I've ever seen in my life. This movie's insane.
But it's great, right?
It's great. I loved it. There is historical stuff in here, and they play with real history in a way where it is completely reasonable to put it on this show.
Yes.
So, good pick, Brain.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I saw it in theaters, and I was like, oh, it's a World War I Kingsman movie. I like the other two. And I was blown away with how much history is in there that's real.
Right.
Like, when I looked into the movie after, I was like, holy shit. Like, they were not fucking around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they play with real events and real people, and in a insane, bizarre way.
But it's but it's kind of real, like what happened.
I guess. Yeah, fine. Mine is the Goat Mountain.
Just that sentence alone is, and that's not the most ridiculous thing.
No, it's not. There's weird gay dancing.
Oh yeah, the ballet dance fight is really up there, especially considering the character who does it.
All right.
But we'll get there.
We'll get
We'll
there.
get into all of that and
yeah.
more. Can I say, watching this, I thought it reminded me of a 90s movie. I felt like movies like this don't exist anymore, and I was pleasantly surprised to see they do. Because I'm a big fan of things like Men in Black and The Mummy.
Fun movies.
Movies. This reminded me of that kind of sensibility, but with a ton of F-bombs. Like, they're cursing constantly. And there's extreme violence. This is R-rated, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a fucking 90s action movie on crack. It's Zorro on crack. And yeah, more than anything else, it reminded me of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is one of my favorite movies to talk about. I know it is yours too.
It's awesome, and we both recognize it's bad.
Oh, it's a horrible movie.
But we love it.
But we love it.
But this is actually a good movie.
Yes.
Like, this is a good movie. And in fact, the series is good. So there's two before this, if
You've
you
seen all
haven't
three.
known. I've seen all three. And honestly, I could not pick, like, my favorite. They're
Really?
all really good. This might be my favorite.
Brain?
So I'll tell you real quick my history with the Kingsman. Anyone who knows me knows what's my favorite movie franchise.
James Bond.
Bond. We know I'm Bond obsessed. So when the first Kingsman movie was coming out, I was like interested in seeing it. And I happened to win tickets to a screening in Manhattan of this. And the first Kingsman movie. I was like, okay, I'll go. So I decide to go, and I find out the director is going to be there. And I had liked his other work. He did Kick-Ass 1. I think he had already made the second Kick-Ass, and he had made a movie I love called Layer Cake, starring Daniel Craig.
Oh, with Miles O'Brien in it.
Yes, he's in it. And I love that movie. And I was like, let me go. And I brought my DVD case with me
Of Layer Cake.
of Layer Cake. And Matthew Vaughn gave a speech before the movie began, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And where I was sitting as he was leaving, I call him over to me. I go, Mr. Vaughn, and I wave him over. And he comes over, and I take out the DVD case, and he's looking, and he's like, I've never seen this cover before. And I was like, oh, I got it at Target. He's like, oh, cool. And he signs it, and
Nice.
I was like, awesome. And he left, and then I watched the movie. And
Kingsman.
The Kingsman, the first one. And for a Bond fan, and it is based on a comic book, but I had never read the comic book. And I do like the writer of the comic book, Mark Millar. So I'm sitting in the theater, and it is an R-rated Bond movie. Everything with Bond turned up to 11 and R-rated. So instead of Bond sleeps with a girl, he fucks her in the ass. And it's like there's heads exploding and all this shit. And it's a violent R-rated Bond. And I'm like, I'm here for this because if this wasn't a Bond movie, I may not like it.
Are these Are these hits? These movies?
The first one was very successful, and the second one was too. This one kind of got fucked with the pandemic a bit. But
Is it the same actors in all of them?
No, because this is a prequel.
So Ray Fiennes is not in.
Ray Fiennes is not in it. This is a prequel to how the Kingsman organization started, which we see at the end of the movie.
Probably some of the best
By the
action
way,
sequences done on film
In a while.
is this franchise.
hold
They
on.
are incredible.
I'll say this real quick. If you've not seen the movie, we're going to spoil the fuck out of it, so go
Right.
check it out.
Yeah, it's
The
fair.
other
Oh, yeah.
movies are 20 years old, so
Right.
you should know going in, but we're going to
Spoiler
talk
alert.
about a spoiler alert
Yeah,
for
we're
everything.
gonna break down this thing.
So let's dive right in, right? All right?
Yeah.
Why wait?
Yeah, of course.
We all liked it?
I loved it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought it was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
I had so much fun.
We'll
watching
give
it.
our rating afterwards, but they're going to be high.
I
They're gonna be
watched
high.
it with my wife, and there's a moment we'll get to it where there's a shock moment.
My wife's jaw
yeah.
dropped.
Mine too. She went.
So did mine. So did mine.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you when I saw it.
I laughed.
When I saw it in theaters, I was like, "Holy shit!"
I laughed.
I audibly just went. Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. So
That's the Kingsman. Makes sense.
So I'll say this: I met Matthew Vaughn. I loved the first movie. I'm a big fan of him as a director. I think he is the best action director on the planet. And
Really?
I will confidently say that.
I will agree with you.
I love every single one of his action movies. He is one of the fucking best.
Agreed.
They're unique. They're not cookie cutter. They're all different, and he's not afraid to throw curveballs. You definitely should check out the other two movies.
I think I will
I think you'll like
because
them.
I'll watch
I
'em.
really enjoyed this.
I'll watch them with you because they're fantastic.
I'll watch them anytime. Let's jump in. The first thing I want to note is that Matthew Vaughn's production company is Marv, right? And their logo used to be the colorblind dots,
Okay.
and I was never able to make them out.
Oh yeah, because you're
I couldn't. I'm colorblind. I could not see what his logo was, and I'm wondering. It's Dice now. Do you think that's he was pushed to do it by accessibility people?
That's a hard question.
Just the current
It's
culture we live
possible.
in.
It's possible.
Maybe.
Did you complain? Were you the one who had him
Yeah.
change it?
Yeah, I wrote to Matthew Vaughn.
Well, he yelled at him when he saw him.
yelled
He was
at
like,
him,
"You
yeah.
stupid fuck!"
As he signed, he
I
goes,
can't read
"I
your
can't
logo."
see your logo."
You ruined 2 seconds of the enjoyment for me. So the movie opens, and we are in South Africa, 1902.
The Boer War.
The Boer War, and there are mass graves.
Yes.
So can you explain what the Boer Wars are?
I wasn't prepared for that, but yes, I can. I can give you a brief one.
Brief.
The Boer War. So, many, many years ago, the Dutch colonized South Africa. They were the first ones to do it. The Portuguese were the first ones to go there, but the Dutch were the first ones to set up a colony and have people living there. As with the rest of the world, Napoleon fucks up everything. So when the French took the Dutch homeland, the British moved into the Cape Colony and took it over. Because why not?
Yeah, it's free real estate.
Right.
Real estate.
So the Boers who were living those are the Dutch. The Boer means farmer in Dutch.
Okay, so it's Dutch farmers.
Yes. The Dutch Boers who were living in South Africa at the time didn't take too kindly to British rule. They didn't like that the British didn't like slavery. The Boers were very much into slavery. So they decided to leave. They went north, and they founded a new country called the Orange Free State. But
The Brits aren't down with this program.
they didn't give a shit that they went up there. It was fine.
Okay.
But something happened. Cecil Rhodes found diamonds. So here come the British. Meanwhile, the Zulu, who are a tribe in the region under their new king Shaka, decide to go on crazy expansion and run a giant war against the Boers and start killing them They say that the Zulu killed like up to maybe even 5 million people. Not
Holy
just
shit.
Boers,
Wow.
but people in that region, other tribes and stuff.
I want to make a note of something because I don't think there's a lot of appreciation for this. Our co-host here, Anthony, is not reading off of a piece of paper.
He said, I'm not prepared for this.
He says,
And
I'm
now
not
he's doing
prepared
a
for this, and he's doing
dissertation.
an encyclopedic reading of the facts from this entire event. And he's not reading from a phone, he's not reading from a piece of paper, he's not reading from a laptop. It's off the cuff. I don't think people appreciate as much as I do that he does this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Continue.
But the Zulu, they start fighting the Boers, so the Boers ask the British to come and help them and protect them.
Okay. So the Boers asked for the Brits.
They
for
asked the
help.
British to come in. The British crush the Zulu. The Zulu are gone.
Yeah.
Once that happens, the Dutch don't need them anymore. So now they're back under British rule again. They don't like that. So they start to rebel. And there's a couple of Boer rebellions. We're watching the last one when the movie starts.
This is the end of it.
Yeah. So the Boers actually win the first one.
Okay.
And they're being propped up by the Germans. Now, part of why the British have to get involved with this is because they're scared that in the event of, obviously, tensions are rising with the Germans in the early part of the century, that if war with Germany happens, they're going to have a German ally in Africa right on their doorstep
be a
of an
problem.
important colony. So they have to crush the Boers.
Okay.
And eventually they do.
So we see at this point there's mass graves and a
Concentration camps.
concentration camp is
Yeah.
there. Is that real?
Very accurate.
So the British
The
had...
Boers were being like they were masters of like guerrilla fighting,
Okay.
and
Which is how you beat the British.
right.
As we know.
The Boers actually, I think, are the first ones in a war to deliver a defeat to the British since the American Revolution.
Whoa.
Yeah, right. So the British lose the first one, but by that, I think there's 3 of them. There might be 2. But
It's
by
like
this one-
Rocky, you know?
right,
the third one they
The
trained.
British finally win.
I'm going to make love to your woman.
and they do it.
Show what a real man does. I'm going to make love to your empire. I'm going to steal your diamonds.
Come on, woman.
Time.
They do it by rounding them up and
Mass concentration camp
right,
shit.
women and children, shit like that.
Horrible, evil shit.
And they show it.
Right.
And now a past person we've mentioned on the show is there.
Kitchener.
Kitchener.
He's back.
How happy were you when you saw him?
It's the guy from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
What's his name?
The actor is Charles Dance. On Game of Thrones, he's Tywin Lannister?
Tywin.
Tywin
Yeah.
Lannister. Yeah.
He's good.
He's a great actor.
He commands like this aristocracy about him.
Yeah. He's one of the most uptight British men ever.
Yes.
He is also in a Godzilla movie.
Which one?
He is in King of the Monsters.
Is that a newer one?
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
see
like of the new universe.
I like the old universe where Matthew Broderick was a worm guy.
That's the only universe. Let's get it
That's the one
straight.
that matters to me.
The only one that matters.
So Kitchener's there, and this is real. He was really leading the Boer Wars.
Yes.
And there's like, is this a fort or a British colony? Just a concentration
It
camp?
looked like it was just a camp they were overseeing, right?
There's some
in the
tents.
movie.
And then we see.
I will point this out. So a Boer sniper shows up.
Well, before that, we're introduced to our main cast,
Yes.
where it's Ray Fiennes, Bond alumni,
And another alumni of this show.
Digimon Hansu. Digimon is the champion.
When I saw Digimon Hansu, I giddied like a little schoolgirl. I was like, oh, this movie's going to be great. He doesn't pick bad movies.
He's back.
He's never in anything bad, really.
Yeah, name
And
like...
he's not in any of the other Kingsman movies.
No,
No,
he's dead.
No, yeah.
Demon Hunter's dead?
No, well,
Oh,
the
in the-
character.
Oh.
He'd be like 100 years
I was
old.
about to cry.
He just made a movie. I just watched it.
He hasn't aged a day.
Yeah, love to see
So
him.
a Boer sniper shows up.
He shows up and he kills the mother.
Yeah.
Who is
And nobody takes cover. At all.
There's no real cover. It's all
No,
tense.
but he kills the woman, and then they just like
They'll
he's
stop,
holding.
yeah.
Nobody does anything.
Well, it's only one sniper.
Do we know
Digimon
that?
kills the sniper.
Do we know that?
Well, once he
the
kills
gunfire
him,
stops.
the shooting
Yeah, but
stops.
they don't know that.
Well, there's no more
they're
shooting.
still aiming, looking, and everybody stopped shooting.
Taking
Yeah.
an awful risk, especially with that little kid.
Agreed.
Well, he's in the
Well,
carriage.
also, why would you bring your?
He comes running out.
Why would
he
you bring
hugs
them there
Ray Fiennes.
anyway? Like, why are you bringing them there? There's no reason to have them there.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're there to die.
There was a purpose why he was there, and I forgot it.
Well, there's
Yeah.
a whole like.
Well, he was charged with helping out the war there.
No,
No.
there's a subplot in this movie about aristocracy. And
Oh,
privilege.
yes.
And he.
Oh, you want to wait till we get there, or you want to talk about it now?
Well, it starts here.
Okay, sure.
Because the Ray Fiennes gives a little lecture to his son about how they're there to use their privilege for good and to
Yes,
help people.
it's the job of aristocracy and the rich to show the path for the common man to
Yes,
walk,
right.
to be a good
to
example.
be a good example and to help. And that's why they're there. I don't know exactly what they're helping at this concentration camp.
Helping their mother get killed.
Yeah, but there it is.
So she was so she gets shot by the sniper, but kind of like almost by accident, it seems. Like it was just like a shooting towards the general
guy curses Kitchener's name before he fires. They show that. He's aiming for him.
Yeah.
And then
He also hits Ray Fiennes' legs.
Yeah.
we have a real
Yeah.
problem in the show with snipers hitting unarmed women.
Yeah. Snipers
in the
apparently
last
are not
episode,
that
too.
good. But she seems awkwardly okay with dying in this scene.
She's more concerned with her son never seeing war again, which seems like an odd
Like she's
thing
not crying,
to
she's not in
ask
pain,
for.
she's just like
Not even
"All
take
right."
care of our son. Specifically, make sure he doesn't see war again.
And it kind of says it like that.
Well, they seem to be anti-war. Like Ray Fiennes is anti-war, and you know he told shit he did
Right.
to her, and now they went there and she saw concentration camps and
we
all this.
We find out later that he has a secret spy organization, so I assume he's already involved in that, and she knows that.
No, he
That's
said.
what I'll
I think
say.
he
No,
sets that up
that
later.
was set up afterwards.
Okay.
It seems.
Yeah. So the movie then cuts to
That's to 1914.
Yeah, I was gonna say the present day, but you know where the movie will mostly take place, 1914, and we see that the little boy is now grown up. Conrad is a man.
He flies planes.
Yep, and he is with Digimon Hansu.
Yes.
Solar, I think his name is.
No,
or
actually,
Sholar?
he's flying a plane with Ray Fiennes,
with Ray Fiennes. You're right.
and they land. Oh, and he calls Digimon Hansu Merlin. And
Yeah, he's like
Later on.
He's like, you know, you're my Merlin, and my
Yeah,
father
right,
is King
right,
Arthur. They used to do that when they were kids.
Yeah.
he's Lancelot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they together they train with like sword fightings,
Yeah.
like knife fightings, and it's a cool.
It's like African knife fighting
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a cool training moment.
Yeah.
And Gemma Arterton, who is also a Bond alumni, she was a Bond girl.
She's hot.
Yeah, she
The
was
nurse, right?
The nurse,
And
yeah.
a damn good sharpshooter.
She was named Strawberry Fields in Quantum of Solace.
Strawberry fields.
Yeah, that was my note. A hot marksman. Cool.
And they had, she annoyed me before I realized that she was like a secret agent superhero
Agreed.
person, because I'm like, who is this uppity nanny who's like mouthing off to her boss and like demanding shit? Like, where does she get her boss?
Well, I also think that they've had like kind of a will they won't they relationship with each other.
Yeah.
They're
You
clearly
get-
close with each other.
you get that.
You know, and that's why he takes her into his office and he's like, you know, don't like you could talk like this to me in private,
Right.
but you
Right. Yeah. He
In
doesn't
public-
say that, but that's kind of
in public shut your fucking mouth.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Basically what he says.
You know what went down in that office if that was real life.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about the Swans.
The swan's still there.
Ray Fiennes is also in the movie In Bruges, a favorite of
Which
ours.
is what we're quoting.
He's in a lot of good movies.
He's awesome.
Oh,
He's a great
yeah.
actor. He's also Voldemort.
Oh, and Harry Potter, yeah. Yeah, and he's Grand Budapest. I
Yes,
like.
he is. No, you mean Grand Budapest?
No,
yeah.
he's not, yeah.
I was thinking of the train movie,
Red
Darjeeling.
Dragon,
Red Dragon?
right?
No, Darjeeling Limited.
What's
He
Red-
is in Red Dragon.
Red Dragon.
Oh yeah, he
He's
is.
Mrs. Leeds changing?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
see?
Yes.
That's him?
That's him.
He's also the Nazi in
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List.
Yeah, he's
I
got
pardon you.
a list of amazing characters under his
Yeah,
belt.
he's
Really good.
M in Bond. He's a great actor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who knew we knew his IMDb?
So then he talks to his son, and this, I think, is one of the most important things in the movie. So Ralph Fiennes talks to his son about how gentleman used to be an insult. And it used to be something that was looked down upon, right? And that, like, it meant, like, you were
he's
weak.
talking about, like, the barbarian past, like ancient times. And
Not even that.
to be called a gentleman would be a sign of weakness.
I think he meant even as far back as, like, the 1700s.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah, I think he was specifically referring to, like warlord times, the Dark Ages.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah,
I don't.
They don't
know
specify.
if
It's not really.
I think both of you are kind of correct in a way.
But he's saying, like, now that we are gentlemen, we are civilized people, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard as far as
Doing
violence.
things,
Barbarism.
and
Yeah.
fighting, and being an example and all that. Right. And he also says Ferdinand's ambition equals danger.
Franz Ferdinand.
Franz Ferdinand.
And the second he said that, you should be like, "Yep, I know where this is going."
Well, we know what year it is just
Yep.
if you did the math, because
Yeah.
they show you it's 1902, and then it fast forwards 12 years. Like, okay,
Yep, here we go. Shit's about to pop off.
So the next scene is when I first saw this, I was like, "Oh, we're doing this," like, because there's no Blofeld in, like, the modern movies, right? So the next scene shows the mountain,
The goat.
The goat
mountain.
the Goat Mountain,
Sickest
there's
elevator
a
on Earth.
bizarre plateau
in the middle of, like,
in the middle of Scotland. We don't know it's Scotland.
no,
yet,
we don't
though.
know. You're assuming it's Scotland.
And it's fucking crazy.
It's.
There's a
How high do you
cabin.
think that is? How high is that?
It's like a mile straight up. It's like Devil's Tower. This thing could not exist where it does, right?
The plains of Scotland,
This is
just a
right.
random mountain.
Random mountain with a flat top. And
Covered
it's
in
got
grass.
goats.
Mountain goats
Yeah. And it's the only place where these goats are, we find out
on
later.
Earth.
Yeah.
Which you think if you're an evil genius, you wouldn't be using those goats for anything.
No.
Because you're gonna be found out.
Well, they use them to sell cashmere. That's how they're funding their operation.
Right.
So that special fabric.
And he has a favorite goat, the bad man. Some
Yes.
crazy
There's
There's
a
a
bad
bad man in shadows.
Who's bald from behind. You only
Right.
see the back of his head.
Yes.
Which I said, nobody at the table said, "Hey, I think the goat man on the mountain is evil." Nobody thought that.
He has a very obvious Scottish accent.
Clear thing.
And he's sitting at a fucking table with the who's who of the 1940s, of the teens.
Did you know who they were immediately?
Well, Rasputin. Well, we see Rasputin before anybody.
Which
Yes.
is utterly
So
ridiculous.
I thought
that
we
he's
were in
here.
Russia,
Okay.
right? Wouldn't that be a reasonable thing?
Yes.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. So I thought we're in Russia because we see Rasputin. He's called that by name, and he comes in and he's late. And
I lost
everybody-
my shit when I saw him.
And everybody's mad at him.
He's late.
And he sits down at the table with the Mata Hari.
Yes. A real person.
Yes. Gavriello Princip.
Yep.
Lenin.
Lenin's there. Yes.
Yep.
DuPont.
Yep.
Who else is there? There's more.
There's Eric Jan Hanhusen, who I was not familiar with.
He's a German advisor.
Yeah, he's a hypnotist apparently, and like he was like a performer in Germany, and he's Jewish. He was actually a Jewish Nazi, and he worked with Hitler in like the early parts of his career. And he kind of gave Hitler his speech patterns, and he told Hitler, "This is how you work a crowd." And he's the guy who taught Hitler how to become Hitler.
Right.
And
So when
he
you
ended
saw
up-
this-
I didn't know who this guy was.
You didn't? Okay.
No, I didn't have a clue who this guy was. I had to look him up. He eventually was assassinated in 1933 by because other Nazis were jealous of his standing and closeness to Hitler. But him and Hitler were buddies. His Jewishness was like an open secret. But he was like a hypnotist and performer. He was like a mind guy.
Not too far off from Rasputin.
He was into occultism. Very similar.
Yeah. Now, you being the history buff that you are, and I'm talking to Anthony here, when you saw that table, were you like losing your mind?
I
Like,
was
what is happening?
I was like, what the fuck is this? You know, like, it was doing, like I said, this is one of the most bonkers fucking movies I've ever seen. Like, I didn't know where they were going with this.
And it's a goat man on a mountain.
He's on a goat mountain.
It's like
I assume
it's
they
like
were in
Dr.
Russia,
Evil,
right? I thought, okay, well now there's going to be communists, right? Like we're going to go to the Lenin's there, right?
yeah.
And Lenin, should have been in exile at this time. He was not in Russia, so
Well, he doesn't have to be in Russia. He's
right.
there.
Yeah.
I believe he was in Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken. But Rasputin definitely in 1914 was in the Tsar's palace, pretty much.
Well, he could have been traveling for a bit, you know?
Right. So they're forming some kind of play. He hands out rings, right, with animals on them. I don't
Yes.
get the significance of the animals.
So
They fight about them like it's Reservoir Dogs, too.
I wrote that. It's a clear Reservoir Dogs
Right.
thing. I was like, Matthew Vaughn is just a Reservoir Dogs fan, and he wanted them to fight about the animal code names. So it's also a Spectre reference because they all have the rings with the octopus. It's the Spectre symbol.
Oh, James Bond.
In James Bond. He's shot from behind like Blofeld. He has goats instead of cats.
So you were loving this.
Straight Bond. I eat this up. I was like, oh, this is great. They're gonna have Blofeld, and I thought that they were going to bring him back for multiple movies, and that they would do like a World War II one with him, and he'd be like a main villain.
Well, that isn't
that
happening.
doesn't happen.
Right.
So I was wrong on that one.
I definitely did not want to see his face. The second because in
You
the
knew it
movie
was
they
going to
don't
be a
show it.
letdown. Because what
Yeah.
could it be that it would be unless it was somebody from the other movies?
They had to do one of two things: either go really ridiculous or go really subtle. And I'm not going to give it away yet, but I was hoping for ridiculous. I wanted it to be silly. I wanted him to turn around and have a goat face.
I wanted,
what I mean? Like-
yeah, it could be that. Or like
It's Goat Boy from SNL.
right.
yeah.
Or they just go really fucking crazy and just go, Teddy Roosevelt, it was you the whole time?
But Rasputin gets a little like tortoise ring
Yeah.
because he was late, and they show how evil
And they're
the goat
talking to him
guy
like
is.
he's a prick, like he's a dumbass.
Yeah. But the goat guy, he cuts off the horn of his favorite goat just to show that he's like
Well,
not
that
to be
doesn't
fucked
care.
around with.
Right. I'll even fuck up this goat if I want to.
Yeah.
You know?
And then they all also have a cyanide pill.
Yeah.
In the ring, right?
In the ring.
I guess
yeah.
if they fail, they're supposed to. We never understand why they're loyal to this guy, or like why they have any investment in him either.
It's Dr. Evil.
So basically,
yeah, is it Dr. Evil?
Yeah.
Dr. Evil's headquarters. So I think a part of it is also we have to just say what his mission statement is. He hates
England.
England and aristocracy.
Yeah.
Aristocracy. He hates it.
Yeah.
So his goal is to get a big conflict
He
going.
wants to kill
which
the
will
king.
end, that
The
class.
monarchy. He doesn't like the monarchy.
He doesn't like
Right.
monarchies. He wants to end that in all of like Europe,
Right.
and especially hates fucking
Right.
England
George
because
V.
he is an angry Scotsman.
Right, he's mad. Scotland's been part of England
For
by the
700
UK.
years.
Yeah,
He's still not
he's
over
still
it.
mad about
He's
this.
just he's pissed.
It made no sense, but it was fine.
He's a real nationalist.
Right,
You know, like
he's
if
a
you're
Scottish nationalist.
Yeah, and I will say a point about that later that I feel is what the movie is really about.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely things. All right, yeah,
I think I know that
We'll
too.
get to it.
So
It's the next important scene,
The
which I loved what they did with this. I really did. They threw a curveball.
Is this when we see like Rasputin in Russia?
no,
No, not yet.
Because that was fucking nuts.
It's They get Franzi.
so the next thing,
Oh, right.
the next thing
He
that,
sends an assassin.
Well, hold on. The
goat man sends an assassin.
Kitchener visits Ray Fiennes at his house.
yes, and they have a talk about
About
Franz
Franz
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand. Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that had happened already.
Did we skip that?
I think I said it wrong. I think my note was off. But yeah, they have a talk about Franz Ferdinand's ambitions equaling danger.
right.
And what are his ambitions, Ant?
See, that's what was I don't. He didn't want war. In fact, we find out years later that if they were going to kill anybody, they killed the wrong dude because he did not like the Serbs. He thought they were less than human and shit. But he placed his own views over that of the Empire. I'm sorry, he placed the Empire over that of his own views. And he, obviously, he's heir to the throne. He actually had a plan. This was in his writings that was discovered after he was dead. The way Austria-Hungary, because it's the Austro-Hungarian Empire, has kind of like a dual power with the Austria and Hungary. He wanted to add the Slavs as like a third part of that to give them equal rights and stuff. So if anyone had a friend in the Austrian Empire to the Slavs, it's him. And they ended up blowing him away.
All it takes is one crazy person.
Well, I'll bring this up. I once watched a movie. It was called Sarajevo, and it was about. It's a Serbian movie, so it's in their language and shit. I saw it on Netflix years ago. It's about the investigation after the assassination. It's like a cop trying to like piece together what happened. And in that movie, they suggested, and I've never seen this said anywhere else, but it makes a lot of sense to me, that German industrialists were building a railroad from Berlin to Baghdad. And
I see where that's going.
all of the countries that railroad would have to go through were Central Powers countries, except for Serbia. So you've got Berlin, obviously Germany. You go through the Austro-Hungarian Empire, through Serbia, into the Ottoman Empire, all the way to Baghdad. And if that happened, the Germans would have a railway link all the way to India, practically, thus threatening the British Empire. So this movie suggested that the Black Hand, who is the terrorist organization that backed up the young Bosnians, who Gavrilo Princip was a member of.
They're nationalists.
Right. You're saying that the Black Hand was actually funded by the German railroad people. And
That's interesting.
they had interest in starting a war with Serbia, so that because you would assume if the rest of the world didn't get involved, that the Austrian Empire could easily conquer Serbia,
Which is probably what
which
would
is
have
what they
happened.
wanted.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, we get this. Ray Fiennes goes to Sarajevo.
Yeah.
He's in the car.
He's in the car. when you
He gets in the car, you go, oh no.
when you saw him in the car,
I was like, are they really doing this?
yeah. But that was me when I saw it.
The hysterical thing that they did was the bomb.
The bomb's real.
I love it. I love how
Yeah.
they did it, that the son hits it with an umbrella.
Yeah. So I'll say this.
Brian called me.
So obviously I know he's assassinated, but I never looked into the details
Like how it went down?
because ultimately it doesn't matter. But when I saw it depicted in this, I was like, I gotta know. So, and like I called it in as I'm driving home. I was like, we gotta talk about the Archduke.
First World War.
And he's like, okay, let's do it. And I tell him the scene in the movie, and he's like, yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah, so
And that was when I was like, this movie's genius.
there in the movie he acts alone. He wasn't alone.
Yeah,
There
he
were-
had 5 people.
Yeah, there was a whole crew. And not him, but another guy threw a bomb at the car, and it didn't go off. It went under, like they drove over it, and it blew up the car behind them.
Which is exactly what
kinda
happens.
Exactly
in
what
this
happens
movie,
in the movie. The Archduke
Goes and gives a speech.
goes to the hospital.
Well, no, he goes to
He goes and gives a speech, kind of makes a joke about what happened, and decides he wants to visit the guys in the
Yep.
hospital who just got blown up.
Now, the driver was not aware of this
Of the route,
change yet they were going to do.
So he makes a wrong turn, and the guy in the back seat, not the Archduke, but the guy with them, I think he's a general, is like, no, we have to go this way. So now they go down this alley, and the conspirators think, oh, we fucked up, we missed our chance to kill him.
They have to back up and go back the other way.
No, they gave up. I'm
gave up?
talking about the terrorists now, the Black
Oh,
Hand guys.
okay.
Yeah, they're done.
They're like, fuck. So Gavrilo Princip, he thinks the plot failed, goes down to a cafe and starts eating a sandwich.
He's eating a nice sandwich.
He's eating a sandwich. All of a sudden, the Archduke drives up right in front of him and starts making a K-turn right in front of him. So he's like, holy shit! Jumps up, pulls a pistol out, kills the Archduke and his wife.
He's swarmed within
Right.
5 seconds, and he takes the cyanide pill, but it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Which is why his cyanide pill in the movie is empty when they go to investigate him later.
This is just how it happened. The wife died pretty quickly, and Franz died not long after, but he actually spoke a little bit after he was talking to his wife, and he was like, you have to stay alive for the children. That didn't happen, obviously, and war.
Yeah.
You know,
And the reason for the war is that now it's an international incident.
It's
right?
actually not yet.
It's not yet, but
There's if you read the Guns of August, which is kind of a breakdown of that first month, like it's the first month of the war and the events leading up to it. It is one of the most confusing and just roller coaster rides of human events that has ever happened. I think it's a infinitely fascinating moment in history. Is just from that moment to the Germans breaking through Belgium. It's fucking nuts what happens after that, and just all the alliance systems crashing down on each other.
So basically, the shortest version of it is that Russia is allied with the Serbs,
Austria wants to declare war on the Serbs. Germany gives them a blank check and says, we will back you in whatever you do. Russia says, we are the protectors of the Slavs, and we're going to back them up whatever you do. France is in a locked alliance with the Russians and says, we'll back up whatever the Russians do. Britain tries to stay out of it, but they have a treaty with Belgium that says, if Belgium is attacked, we have to get involved. Belgium is on the way to Paris. Germans already have the Schlieffen Plan already in their back pocket, which they've developed decades ago, where if in case of war with France, break glass, we use the Schlieffen Plan, which involves railroading right through Belgium. So once their borders are violated, the British get involved. And that is the short version of how the First World War started.
Basically, we're going to turn them into waffles and get right to France. Get those nice Napoleons.
Right.
A lot of proxy wars.
Yeah. It is a crazy system of alliances that just collapses. Bismarck never would have allowed this.
And now in the movie, they kind of go into some explanation.
Yeah, they treat the monarchs like kind of cartoon characters.
It is,
Yes.
yeah. One of my notes was, well, that feud is really simplistic.
Yeah, I don't know this for sure. I don't think they were roughly the same age, so I don't think they were kids together.
But they definitely were all
They
cousins,
yeah,
right?
they were all related and they knew each other.
Well, cousins play together regardless of age, usually.
Yeah, they have this whole thing about the other two guys giving Wilhelm shit. I do know this.
Look, well, he's got a fucked up hand.
He was born in England, and the doctors that when his mother gave birth to him
Said, whoa.
they made some mistakes, and they're the reason is he has that withered arm.
They botched him.
And he
They
blames
they left the arm in the vag.
Blames the English.
he blames the English for that, and he did that till the day he died. He has this grudge against Britain. He wants a place. Germany wants a place in the sun. That's what they called it, and they have this naval race before that. It's like this long-standing
Sibling rivalry almost.
with
Familial rivalry.
with the British Empire. He wants it. He wants Germany to replace them as the world power.
So King George does not want to have a fight happen. He doesn't want a war. The Tsar immediately wants a fight, like in the movie.
Yeah,
Tsar is like, let's go.
And also he has Rasputin whispering in his ear in a
That's
really
true.
creepy way.
which yeah, okay.
Wait, so I want to talk.
We gotta get into this.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Okay.
All right, so then we get one of my favorite signature shots of Matthew Vaughn. It's in all his movies. So he'll pan to like one object, and it will smash cut to another scene where that same object is there. And he does that with a mustache here.
Yeah.
Where
Oh,
it zooms
and
in
it's
on
such-
one of the
it's
Tsar's
so
mustaches,
ridiculous.
and then it smash cuts to Kitchener's mustache, and they're talking about the war.
Right.
And the World War I begins, and then we find out that Ray Fiennes was involved in a Sudanese massacre.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. They don't really get into it.
I'm
but
assuming-
he's fighting like Arab tribesmen.
So I'm assuming that would be kind
Yeah,
of when
like the Four Feathers. Like,
after
right.
after
the reconquest
Khartoum.
of the Sudan.
Yes, I assumed that's what it would
Right.
have to be.
It always comes back to that, doesn't it?
It's funny that we're kind of in that era. Like, really, it's very important, right? And you
Well,
wouldn't
the
think
reason
so.
why you see that that backstory is the son wants to go to war, right?
Yes, we didn't mention that. Conrad is desperate
He
to
really
go to
wants
war.
to go to war. So,
right. He
And
wants to join up.
he receives a white feather in town, which is a symbol of your cowardice. And now, is that true?
I love this. So that was a thing that the British government absolutely encouraged, was for young women to get together and go around towns and find men of fighting age, and if they were not in the service, they'd hand them a feather, which signified that they were cowards. And they essentially wanted to shame guys
Brutal psyops.
into joining up. The movie The Four Feathers is about exactly that. Four friends go to war. The fifth one is given a feather for not going, and he goes after them.
Okay,
He
this
goes in-
sounds awesome.
He goes into
Yeah,
the
that sounds
Sudan to.
Is this a movie we're going to touch
Oh,
upon?
we'll be
one
watching
day?
that one at some point. It's a great movie. But
So
yeah.
that's pretty cool. So he wants to go, and his father is like,
No.
And he starts to have flashbacks of his time in the war, which is just murdering people who are just defending their home.
Yeah, he's like, you don't know what war is. You don't want to go to this.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next thing we see after this is we see Rasputin with Alexei.
Yeah.
With the kid.
He's so creepy.
So in the movie, he
creepy.
deliberately poisons Alexei to give him a
arsenic
seizure.
or something.
To give him a seizure.
Yeah.
And he's like,
And he's holding him in this white palace.
Yeah.
And he's frothing at the mouth.
and he's like,
Your country needs this boy, or you're gonna let him die.
only I can save him.
Only I could save
In
him.
order to do this, you have to like pull out of the war.
Okay. Let's talk about this.
All right.
I love
You want to talk
Rasputin
about
in this
Rasputin
movie.
in general?
His character.
We got to talk
in
about
this-
Rasputin. We got to talk about why Russia's in the war. We got to talk about a couple of things.
All
here.
right, let's do
So
it.
why is Rasputin even a thing in real life? Do you know why?
Yes, I looked into this.
Okay. Go ahead.
So Rasputin is a dude who's a monk, right?
Yes. He's from out in Siberia.
Yeah, he lived a life and became a deeply religious man. And
He is associated with a cult called the Christie.
yes, well, that's after. I'm talking about how he rose to prominence.
Well, this is a young man. He encounters these people out in the fucking boonies of Siberia. They're this Christie cult who feel that they can get closer to God through extreme sexual acts.
Yes.
They have like orgies and stuff.
Yeah, basically, he's a complete sexual deviant.
Yes.
So they were pretty accurate with this then.
Well, I've never once heard of him being a homosexual.
But you know what? I think
you know what? You could assume that.
I think if they're
If
that,
they want to make that jump in this movie, I'm not going to get mad about it.
Yeah.
But he is absolutely known far and wide
for fucking everything.
women.
he swung
And
it around.
there's rumors that he fucked one of the princesses. He was fucking the queen.
The Tsarina
Yeah.
is rumored. I don't know how true that is.
That's why he
because
wore the long cloth, because he
from-
had to cover his
From
hang down.
everything I've ever heard about Alexander and what is Mrs. Alexander? No, I'm Alexander. Nicholas and Alexandra is her name. Right. Okay. They really loved each other. Like it was not like a shotgun wedding like you see in some monarchies.
Yeah.
They married for love, and I don't.
That's
think,
why they didn't last.
well, it bit them in the end. Like
Yeah.
they are a lot of why the revolution happened. Them personally, if it was handled in better ways, they could have prevented it. But let's talk about Rasputin.
Well, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Alexei was a hemophiliac.
Yes. At some point, probably
He comes
around-
across the Tsarinas. Is that the queen's name,
Yes,
basically?
that's her title.
Yeah, the Tsarina. He comes across one of her cousins, and he does something which impresses her. And he's like, "Introduce me to the Tsar and Tsarina," and they're like, "Okay." And he basically is able to kind of stave off Alexei's hemophilia at different times when he's going to be pronounced dead.
Right.
And because of this, they give unquestioned belief to him that he can heal their son.
Right.
And she has complete faith in him.
Yes. And he gets privileges in the ear of the Tsar.
Yeah. And he becomes
And
at the seat. He's at the table.
It has to be said that the general court, only people very close to the family, the people certainly don't know, the regular people, that the Tsarevich is a hemophiliac. So all they see on the outside is that this crazy fucking priest is hanging around the Tsar and Tsarina and influencing them.
And keeping their son alive.
Well, they don't know that.
Oh, okay. So they just see that the monk's there.
Right.
And there's assassination attempts.
There is a story that I should point out that one time he had a hemophiliac episode and Rasputin was not there. He was away. So they called him on the phone and were like, you need to do something.
He said, "Don't do anything."
He said, God has heard your prayers.
Yep.
Don't let the doctors bother him
Yep.
and he'll be fine. Now, it is thought that the doctors were probably giving him
Aspirin, which
is a
is
blood,
blood
thinner.
thinner. Yeah, exactly.
Which would make the hemophiliac episode worse. But sure enough, the Tsarevich got better. Rasputin is now aces in the eyes of the Tsar, so he's going to be hanging around. And he made the prediction, a prophecy,
That I will be on a typo negative album cover.
right. He said Pete Steele is going to love me and make weird Russian accents in that one song Beaver Hates.
Which song?
So it's not.
It's
just
on that album.
Yeah, it's halfway through.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's halfway through the song. He starts chanting in Russian, and I'm like, why are you doing this?
I love that album.
Album's great.
I have to shut it off every time.
But he predicted that, he said to the Tsar, he said, if you go to war, it will be the end of the monarchy. And sure enough, he was proven correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's this weird mystic that the people don't quite understand why he's there, and they definitely have suspicions about him.
And there's other religious cults and like sects in Russia that want him dead. Like he's shot at and stabbed, and like people get arrested for trying to kill him.
He's disliked by the monarchists, the people in the court, because they feel he has an undue
Ear of the
ear
leader.
of the Tsar, and he's disliked by the regular people because they think the Tsarina is sleeping with him, and they think he's like almost satanic,
And they weren't too far off.
Yeah.
Like they really weren't. Like their suspicions were very much valid.
So back to the movie. Like this scene
Of him healing.
is so weird.
It's so bizarre.
He's holding the kid. The kid's
the kid's
frothing at the
frothing.
mouth, and the Tsar, and he's yelling at the Tsar.
You must pull out of the war.
No, he wants him in the war.
No, I thought at this point he's pulling him out of the war on the behest of the
Well, this is just.
Oh, did we fast forward like a couple of years?
Yeah, I think we skipped like the war is like hot already. And this is the point where they basically want Russia out of the war.
They do a cool scene. They do a cool little like montage scene where they show a field and the bad guy's talking over it.
Yes.
And he's like, the war accomplished in months what would have taken years for us to do.
In 2 years,
Yes,
we
right.
accomplished what would have taken like decades. Yeah.
Right, and it shows
All the destruction.
formation of the trench system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
It almost
Yeah.
looks like it's making what's that zone?
No Man's
Land.
Yeah.
That's what
right.
it looks like. Yeah.
Yes.
And they're talking that now is the time for Russia to pull out so the full focus can go on to
So
England.
the Germans can.
And they could destroy England.
France is not mentioned at all in this movie, by the way.
No, they're not.
They're not important.
Yeah. Look, this movie's made by a Brit, so it's he's like, fuck the frogs.
And there's a scene when they have like the guys in trenches going fix bayonets. And every time you hear that, it's like, you're dead. Why even bother? Why even put the bayonet on? You're going to get up and just get shot. Like, come on.
So anyway, Rasputin basically gets
He
the Tsar,
gets the Tsar on his knees with his wife and like
gives them opium.
gives them
Opium,
opium from across and makes it look like they're receiving his cock.
Yeah.
Like he's jizzing on them. It's very graphic
It's overly
and fucking
sexualized.
weird. Yeah.
His whole character is overly sexualized,
Right.
which
I guess the
makes
guy
sense.
was.
I mean, it
but-
makes sense, yeah.
But he's like openly talking about fucking men later on.
Specifically young boys.
Right.
Which gets even weirder because then it's like, wait, I don't know, like, we'll get to that scene, but like you think he's gonna try to fuck a young boy, then it's like, is he about to fuck a grown man? Is he about to fuck a grown man? Is that happening now? I don't know. Like,
So the next scene after he saves the kid and gives them like the opium, right?
yeah.
Is Kitchener like talking to them about how
They need to send.
we need to send some people to Russia to convince them to stay in the war so we could fight Germany. Kitchener's like, I'm going to go over and I am going to do this. And I'm going to, go to Russia. And what happened in real life?
In real life, Kitchener went on a survey mission to Russia.
The HMS Hampshire.
That's correct. And the purpose of it was to kind of assess their supply lines and things like that to reinforce the Eastern Front. They were worried about how the Eastern Front was possibly collapsing after the Battle of Tannenberg and stuff. It hit a mine, the ship, and it went down, and Lord Kitchener was never seen again. Our pal from Khartoum.
R.I.P.
The sea is utterly horrifying. Anything to do with the ocean is terrifying.
I was thinking about this watching this. Being a captain going down with the ship is the worst way to die because you're going to drown. And they say that's like the worst.
I
like
should put a gun in your mouth. Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Or ice freezing.
It's not fun.
It's not nice. No.
No.
He's probably now. I'm just thinking about this now. He's probably the highest ranking guy in the war to die.
Well, like you said, he had legendary status.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
He's on the
he's
poster.
the poster.
They show it in the movie.
Right. Yeah. And they changed it to his face. To,
Yeah.
In real life, that has to be really bad for morale.
Sure.
Like that. Oh man.
Yeah.
If that especially if that's your dude.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you guys know how it was sunk? Because this is a little interesting, and I thought this kind of tied into the movie.
There are conspiracy theories about it, but the official story is that it hit a German mine.
Yes, but this is what happened. Fritz Jobert Duquesne. He's
That's
a
a
Boer.
name.
He's a Boer and German spy.
Is it Duquesne?
It's Duquesne. Duquesnes? I don't know. Whatever, it doesn't matter. He pretended to be a Russian count, and he joined Kitchener in Scotland. He then signaled a German U-boat shortly after they left, informing them that Kitchener's ship was coming. He was then rescued by submarine as the New Hampshire sank.
Mm-hmm.
In the 30s and 40s, he went on to run a spy ring for Nazi Germany. He was captured in America along with 32 other Nazis, and it was the biggest espionage conviction in United States history.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So
Was this the submarine thing on Long Island?
I don't know about that, but I do know that he went on a submarine on this. And when you think about the movie, and we know the movie, I think that the bald guy is not Duquesne, but I think he's inspired by him definitely, because it's the Scotland guy. He's on the boat.
Right. Well, in the movie, a German U-boat torpedoes the ship.
Yes, which is what they're saying happened.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a little interesting tidbit that the movie was playing with.
Right.
Anyway, the next thing that happens is Ray tells his son, his son's pissed Kitchener's dead. Mm-hmm. And he's like...
He also, Kitchener kept his son out of the service, Ray Fiennes'
Yes, he wasn't going to let him serve.
Yeah. Also, we find out that their cousin is Felix Yusupov.
Well, we're not there yet. Hold on.
Well, now the famous spy line that you always know spy shit's gonna go down. Follow me, and you pull something.
Yes, and he pulls the briefcase, and it opens up the bookcase, and it opens up, and now we have their HQ.
It's a secret tunnel, which I think
room,
houses need more of these. We need more secret rock tunnels.
I would kill.
You gotta make one.
How awesome would it be to have something like this in your house, right?
You're a homeowner. You could do it.
I could barely fucking keep the lights on.
If you're listening,
secret tunnels.
If you're listening, and you are an architect type of person, we need your help. We need a tunnel.
You know an architect, right?
Art Vandelay.
Yes. Okay.
He's also an importer-exporter.
So
imports chips.
So now we find out about how this spy ring operates and gets their information.
The help.
It's
the help.
Yeah, there's maids and butlers everywhere.
It's a secret spy ring
because
of
so many
butlers.
of them are trained in
England.
In England, that they can communicate and get the info that way, which is a nice, clever thing. I thought.
Is that true?
Yeah,
I don't even
it is
know.
clever.
I feel like it's when I think of a butler, it's always an uptight British guy, right?
Yeah. And if you also think about who has easy access, it's cleaners. They have access to everything.
Right.
So now we get to my favorite sequence of the movie. Everything in the Russia.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, we find out. Well, hold on.
Their
We
cousin
find out
is
their cousin is Felix Yusupov, who sends them a letter you gotta come kill Rasputin. Meanwhile, in reality, he's the one who killed Rasputin.
So yes, in reality, this kind of is based on reality because he did throw a party where he assassinated Rasputin.
Yes.
And the events of the movie, though they are stretched out, are kind of how it happened.
Well,
they stay kind of true.
Let's talk about this.
You find out
I may have
Rasputin.
the year wrong on this. It might be earlier, but in 1916, the Tsar dismissed his uncle, who was the head of the military, and he took over control of the war effort himself. Now, this was a bad move because everything bad that happened in the war now was directly blamed on him. And because Rasputin was around, a lot of people started to blame it on Rasputin's influence. So the plot started, for the good of the country, we need to kill this monk. So Felix Yusupov and a couple of other co-conspirators invited him to a party where they baked him a cake. He didn't eat the cake, so they just shot him. But they were shitty about it. They shot him in the stomach or something.
He was
lived.
shot 3 times, including a close range shot to his head.
They shot him in the head, right?
Yeah.
But then they threw him in the river. They didn't weigh him down or anything, so he just floated down the street pretty much, and got found. And supposedly he was still breathing when he came out of the river.
That's a rumor,
Right.
but he actually did eat the tea and cakes.
And it just didn't kill him.
It did not kill him. He did eat them.
It's actually in this movie.
He also drank poisoned wine, and that did not kill him either. And it wasn't until they stabbed and shot him that he died. And there's a point where they thought he was dead, and just like in the movie, he popped back up. and Rasputin was very hard to kill. And eventually they kill him. They wrap him in a cloth, and they throw him into an icy river over this bridge called the Bolshoi Petrovsky Bridge.
Yeah.
And now that we've talked about the real history,
Let's talk about the movie.
Yeah, because before this happens, they talk about Rasputin and his character, which you find out is a gay pedo man with a sex addiction.
Right. Right.
It's uncomfortably hysterical.
Yeah, it's so weird. And it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable movie.
Yes.
What about when he's like, so this is the plan. Conrad is going to
The son.
Yeah, Conrad the young man is going to seduce Rasputin
With his tight asshole.
and then kill him.
Yeah.
Right, and Ray Fiennes is there as backup.
Yeah.
And Digimon Hansu is waiting in the fucking lurch.
As is the
girl.
And they
maid.
have a poison cake. They
And-
have a poison cake.
Yes,
with
they're
them.
going to give him the poison cake.
But Rasputin does not want to fuck a young boy today.
Nope.
No.
He wants an experienced man.
Right.
And he's talking about this
they go to
openly.
a dinner party.
While violently making out with the girl.
Rasputin walks in with 2 whores.
Yes.
Right?
And it's high society, and he just brings in
he's in this
prostitutes.
aristocratic, Russian aristocracy ball. And he walks in with 2 whores, one on each arm.
They're just straight heroin chic.
Immediately looks at Ray Fiennes and curses at him. And calls him a fucking English person.
Calls him a waiter.
Yeah.
And then Ray Fiennes gives it right back.
Yeah, it gives as well as he gets.
Heard you could do some ballet dancing. Why don't you go dance me over a drink? And that turns on Rasputin.
Yeah, he likes that.
He likes to be talked down to.
So then they sit down at dinner, and Ray
so
Fiennes pretty
insane.
much explicitly tells Rasputin, "I'm offering my son his asshole for an audience with the Tsar."
Yes.
It's classic Hollywood stuff.
And Rasputin.
It's like
I am the Harvey
Right.
Weinstein.
It's what's his name? Kevin Spacey's having a meeting with
Bryan Singer.
from Jaws. What's his name? Hooper.
Richard Dreyfuss.
Hooper brought his son to meet Kevin Spacey one day, allegedly.
Oh, I never heard this.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
jeez.
explain this.
Hooper brought his son to
just
meet
did.
Kevin Spacey
Okay.
one day, allegedly.
Oh,
Okay.
no. So he's like, he talks to the boy, and he could sense the boy's not into it enough. He wants a whore. So he starts making out
Calls
with
him
this
boring.
whore.
Yes. And then he's like, I want to fuck Ray Fiennes.
Yeah. And Ray
Yeah.
Fiennes is like, okay.
I'm into this. They walk into a room.
They go into a back room.
with the poison cake.
Yes.
Top 5 most uncomfortable scenes.
It's the weirdest scene I've ever seen. It's the
at
weirdest
least-
scene
at
I've ever
least-
seen in my fucking life.
At least comedically. I couldn't fathom somebody coming up with this.
He goes, take your
eats
pants
a leg
off.
wound like it's a pussy.
Wait. Wait, you're skipping ahead.
He eats the cake first.
First he tells.
He eats the whole cake.
First he tells Ray Fiennes, take off your pants. And Ray Fiennes is sitting there.
He goes, okay.
He's in half suit.
And he's having
and
fun
he's in
with
his
it.
boxers. And
It's like, oh, this is exciting.
then
Change of pace.
wait, and then Rasputin starts doing Gregorian chants
While massaging
as
the
he's
leg.
massaging this old.
He
bullet
tells him he's
wound.
going to heal his old bullet wound.
Because
Yes.
he says it's
He's like,
important
this
to
damn
know.
leg. He's like, oh, you want me to heal that
Yeah.
for you?
It's important to know how the blood flows. He's rubbing the leg, and you're like, is he trying to turn him on?
What is this?
What's happening?
Right. So then
And then he smells the cake.
he smells the cake.
He
They start
smells the
talking
cake.
about the cake.
There's this almonds, and he just violently eats it. The whole thing.
He's like
He
an
eats it like a
animal.
savage.
And then
Yeah.
you think oh shit, it's about to go down. And he goes down. He starts licking the wound.
He starts licking the leg wound like it's a pussy.
Yes.
Basically, yeah, he eats out Ray Fiennes. And Ray
Fiennes going, oh.
He's like,
Ray Fiennes is orgasmically
He's
moaning.
into it. He's
Yes.
into it.
Ray Fiennes like,
And he will tell Rasputin's now asking him why he's here. And Ray Fiennes will tell him anything.
Yes.
It's so good.
it's so weird. Ray Fiennes is like, oh yeah,
He's like, why'd you come here?
I came here to kill you.
And then it gets even more topped off because he does a signature Aunt G throw up. He violently pukes.
Yeah, he projectile vomits out the cake.
Quickly, yes, he quickly.
And he's
vomits.
like, okay.
do you think I do that? I don't do that.
You've done it twice in front of me.
No, that's never happened.
So then he like walks over to the hot fire, grabs a poker, and goes, "You need to go into the cold Russian water,
Yeah.
Yes.
and that will heal your leg." And he puts him in.
They have a room that just opens up into the river.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not safe. What if it floods?
And when he first grabbed the hot poker, I'm assuming like, oh, they're gonna fight, and it's just to poke open the
He's
ice.
just gonna poke open the
Yeah.
ice. He
'Cause
makes a
it's
hole
so
for him.
ridiculously thick.
So now
Probably.
Ray Fiennes walks into the river,
And Rasputin starts
tries
drowning
to drown him. Right. And that's when
That's when the
two
son
guys come in.
and
Digimon
Hansu
Hansu break through the wall. Break through the door.
And they have a fight that is incredibly choreographed.
Probably the best fight scene ever
It's
made.
the most choreographed fight scene since Anakin fought Darth Maul. I mean, since Obi-Wan.
I think it's better.
Oh, it's way
think it's
better.
better.
This is great.
Because on top of that, like
And the Russian music is playing.
the ballet moves are insane. At one point, actually 2 or 3 times, Rasputin jumps to dodge something, but does a ballet jump.
Yes.
Where he's like in the air, legs and arms up.
He's doing
It's
flamboyant Russian
hysterical.
dances.
It is so
and
funny.
he's kicking them
He's
in the
doing
face.
the kicks.
He's
Yeah.
doing the spins when he has a knife in his
Right.
hand. It's a big
And they're
knife
trying
fight.
to fight him, and they just can't. He's kicking their ass.
It's so good.
Were you laughing your ass off?
Yes, I was like, this is crazy.
He stabs Digimon with opium.
Yeah, he's out for the count.
And now the son's like, I gotta do something.
Son's
He
on his own.
Pulls out the gun. And he's good. He shoots Rasputin.
Ray Fiennes comes out of the water, by the way, and he's like incapacitated because he's all
He's all
cold.
fucked up. Yeah.
Right.
And it's a crazy fight
so
scene that's
insane.
awesome. I'm sure it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's great.
But what's great is that they followed true to the story that we said about Rasputin. So he was poisoned with the cake.
Yep.
He was shot. He
stabbed.
was stabbed. And then in order to kill him, they have to drown him.
Right.
Well, no,
It goes through everything.
No, he drowns. He gets up.
He gets up.
and then they shoot him in the
In
head.
the middle
marks-
of all
the
this,
girl.
the girl comes
The girl
in the
comes in
room
and just shoots him.
him in the head.
It is utterly, it's so much fun and so insane because it's Rasputin.
It's a blast to watch.
It's so funny.
This was great.
It's the best. Everything in Russia is the best thing in the movie.
10 out of 10 fight scene, honestly.
Yeah, and this is a Matthew Vaughn signature. He loves putting
yeah.
together these amazing fight sequences.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, the fight sequence in the church in the first Kingsman
Oh my
may
God.
be equal to this.
It's on par.
It's insane.
It's probably better as a fight scene, but
Yeah,
for
this is
sheer
fun.
For sheer fun, this is the best fight scene probably ever filmed.
It's incredible.
I've never had that much.
Come on.
I've
don't know
never.
about that.
No, for sheer fun. I've never had that
You
much
ever seen
fun,
a Jackie Chan movie?
dude. I never laughed that hard at a fight scene. You know, that's what I mean.
Okay.
It was really perfect, and it was fast, so fast. But yeah, it's the
I don't
same
even
thing.
know what happens next. What happens
So
next?
after they kill Rasputin,
Rasputin's gone. They got to get someone else to
they
do the
got
job.
Well, now they're pissed, and they got to get Lenin.
They got to bring Lennon.
Oh, right. Wait, no.
Yeah.
That happens already?
Yeah.
Yeah, after Rasputin.
Then they go back to England like victory.
Yeah, they're happy and they're on the train.
Right.
yeah.
And
And the kid's like,
Conrad
I
is-
still want
I'm
to go.
still-
I still want to go fight.
And if
still
you
wanna go
if you know
fight.
anything about Kingsman, if it's overly happy, you're about to get taken down a peg.
So then,
So then the evil guy is like,
Lenin, you need to start communism. Start
yes,
a revolution.
Right. Go do your thing.
And he's like, okay, awesome.
Yes. And he's like, the left will outweigh the right.
Yes. and he's like, I'm gonna get the communism going in Russia.
Now, I mean,
Sure.
let's talk about the real thing that happened. Lenin was in Switzerland. He was contacted by the German government, given a bunch of rubles, and said, "Go do your thing."
Not far off.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I mean. They really stood true.
But they here's where the movie was. I'm not gonna say bad because it wasn't bad. It was fine.
It was inaccurate.
It was inaccurate. it's not exactly the picture of a historical epic, but
Yeah.
it shows the Tsar resigning, stepping down to Lenin, which is not what happened.
He did resign, though.
He stepped down from the throne, but there was a spontaneous revolution. All right, so remember I said that when he took over the war, the blame was starting to be placed on him. Now that Rasputin's gone, they killed him. Now it's real. Now they see,
It's not Rasputin, it's you.
it's you. Right. The people rise up in St. Petersburg. They overthrow the Tsar. He's forced to abdicate, and they have this provisional government. Now, the provisional government wants to keep fighting the war. So the war keeps going. The Germans want to throw Lenin in because they know the Bolsheviks will end the war. So go ahead. Here's a bunch of money. Get on a train through Finland. And sure enough, he ended up in St. Petersburg and took over the government.
And skipping, this may be a little ahead, the royal family, they are all killed and shot.
That is down the road.
I skipped ahead in the movie a bit, but it does happen.
The communists kill them.
But
they're kept alive essentially in a prison they put them in this house way out in the east and just keep them under guard for a while until eventually the communists decide we have no use for you. We're going to kill you.
And there's also in the movie one of the ways they're commonly pictured of getting killed is in front of a photographer, where they get their picture taken and they're all gunned down.
I've heard that. I've also heard that they just got thrown in a basement and were machine gunned.
Yeah, that's the legend of the movie that the movie went with. I think it's more cinematic that way.
Sure.
So they went with that version of events, but they are all gunned down, skipping ahead slightly.
Yeah. They're saints now in the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Are they?
Nicholas is, at least.
Okay. So Conrad joins the army, and I believe they referenced the Lusitania, that there is an American ship that got sunk, and Americans
It's
are
not an
pissed.
American ship, it's a British ship. But I missed that if they did say it.
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
They don't say Lusitania, but they say basically that they've sunk American ships trying to bring things to the British.
Which is very true.
So that was what the Lusitania was, correct?
Lusitania is a British passenger ship.
Okay.
There were 100 Americans on board, and they found out decades later that it was in fact smuggling weapons. But the German U-boats, they sunk the Lusitania. It was a big outrage in the United States, but that didn't trigger the war right away.
Yeah. Well, this next thing is kind of what really helped it. The Zimmerman Telegram.
The Zimmerman Telegram. So the Germans, anticipating that sooner or later the United States is going to get involved, tried to lessen the American focus, I guess you could say, on sending troops to Europe by trying to get the
Putting a war on their doorstep.
Right, trying to get the Mexicans to declare war on the USA. Crazy idea. Blew up in their face.
Now, some would
the British
say
were tapped into their lines and uncovered. It's done actually pretty well in the movie.
Yeah. Now, some people tend to believe that the Zimmerman Telegraph is a fake. It's a fake. Kind of like DS9.
Right.
Where do you fall on that?
I think it's real.
Me too.
Yeah, real.
But, if we're talking about DS9,
Now, was this because
I can live with it.
and I can live.
maybe my
Delete logs.
timeline is wrong. How are they sending messages? How did they send that? Was that with the Enigma yet?
There is a cable that was laid decades earlier underneath the Atlantic Ocean. It's a legitimate wire. It goes from New York to London and then spread out from there.
Is it like Morse code?
Yes.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, how was that done? Because I know I don't remember when the Enigma machine was used.
That's World War II.
World War II. Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
But it is coded messages, and the British are listening to it, and their code breakers actually broke the code. The Germans don't know this. So the British had to get the message to the Americans that this had been sent without tipping off the Germans that they had broken their codes, because they want to keep reading them, obviously, reading their messages. So I could be wrong on how this went down exactly, but to my memory, they went to their ambassador in Mexico and got the Mexicans to turn it over to the Americans.
Oh, okay.
Zimmerman actually admitted it was his at one point, in the hopes
Years later?
No, while this is happening, in the hopes that him admitting it would appease America and get them to not get involved, but it had the opposite effect where now everyone was fucking pissed.
Right.
Zimmerman thought that, look, I did it. I'm sorry. Like, well, let's forget this. They didn't invade you. And we were like, nah, fuck you.
Fuck you.
And then, we came in. So in the movie, we are introduced to Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
My least favorite president by far. A man I despise with every fiber of my being. We are introduced to him. And, and he gets the telegram, and he, just says he's not going to do anything. Meanwhile, Conrad is on the battlefield of World War II.
Why is he not going to do anything? Does that happen? We find out later? Or?
They say right now that he's like, I got an election.
He's on the fence about it.
I got an election,
Well, he did run on the platform. He kept us out of war.
Yes, and he's like, I ran on that, and I'm not going to get involved. We find out later why. So now we get to the part where Conrad
goes off to war.
He's in war.
He joins. He's old enough to go out on his own, so he goes. But
he is not allowed to fight
because Ray Fiennes went to the king.
Yeah.
To lean on him and get him to
put him in like cushy jobs.
Yes.
So he finds a random Scotsman, and he's like, "Come here." And he switches places with the Scotsman, who is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who also played Kick-Ass, that's another Matthew Vaughn franchise, and he got to use his, same actor again in a little role. And they switch roles. And now we get to the war sequence, where Conrad is in a trench in a kilt as a Scotsman. He's in like a Scottish platoon.
The Black Watch.
The Black Watch. And he sees a German soldier running across no man's land, waving a Union flag.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And the guy gets like obliterated. And they're like, he had secret plans. He was a spy. We need 5 volunteers to come with us to get this.
So he volunteers.
He volunteers along with a couple of other guys. And they go into no man's land in the middle of the night.
This scene is so fucking badass.
It's how cool
so
is this
fucking
scene?
badass.
And they come across Germans also going for the
Also batshit crazy.
Yeah, ridiculous. Totally ridiculous.
They're both going for the plans, but they can't use their guns.
Otherwise, they're gonna
They
get
don't want to tip off
lit
the
up.
other side.
And then they'll all get obliterated.
Right,
so they all pull out their
They
knives.
all have a silent agreement. We're gonna do
We're
this.
gonna do this hand to hand.
Yeah.
And they just have an out-and-out brawl.
Yes.
It's badass.
And it's cool.
And some of the Germans don't even bother to take off their gas masks while they're
Yep.
fighting.
Eventually, we get to a point where Conrad is about to die, and the guy that he volunteered for pulls out his gun to save him, which now causes hell to rain down on him.
Yes.
And
the flares go up. It's a cool scene.
Yeah.
And then the machine guns open up.
just all over
And
the
he
place. It's
dives
chaos.
into a thing, and he finds the
spy.
So
Spy is
still
alive.
He's still alive, and he's like, I got these plans.
Missing a leg though.
We got to get back. So Conrad,
No, he says you got to get back.
You gotta get
And
back.
Conrad's like, we're going back.
and he puts him on his shoulders, and it's clear they're referencing 1917, right?
Yes. Yeah. They were doing 1917.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I mean, kind of.
They're doing the Kingsman version.
They're doing
of
the
it.
Kingsman version, but in the Kingsman version, if there's one thing something's gonna go off. Like, nothing is perfect in the Kingsman, and that's
Yeah.
why I love it.
So he carries the fucking dude,
He's running it.
and he's running across these
I don't know
boxes.
how he makes it through this.
Well, that's the thing. It's supposed to be so comical and unbelievable,
Right.
and it stops you short, which is what they did. Because he's running with the guy, and the machine gun's fire is going off,
Right.
and it's the straight stormtrooper-esque shooting where everything's missing, and then it gets artillery.
He gets
and
blown
he
up.
flies into the trench.
The guy he's trying to save is dead. And
Yeah.
he, I guess, breaks his fall, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he lives. So he gets up and he's got the spy
He's
shit.
like, I got the plans. We got to get this to someone.
What are the plans again? They say it.
It's the proof of the Zimmerman telegraph.
Oh, that it's real.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the proof it's real. But they say it later. You don't know at this moment. And he's like, I got these plans. We got to get them back. And they're like, he's like, what's your name? I'm Archie Reed. And another Scotsman goes, you're not Archie Reed.
Archie Reed.
Archie Reed. Archie Reed, who are you? And he goes, no, I'm not.
He tries
and
to
it's-
explain himself.
He tries to explain, but
Not
Scots
even
don't
hearing
give a
it.
fuck.
He goes, you're a fucking German spy. And
Boom.
blows him away.
Blasts him in
Right
the
in
face.
the face.
What was your reaction when you saw this?
Like I said, my wife went, "Ah!" And then I just went, Whoa, wasn't expecting that.
See, that's my reaction. Not surprising he dies, but cool way to do it. Because, like, they were so happy at the birthday, and then they succeeded. Right. I'm like, they're killing this guy.
This is our hero.
They're killing him.
So now Lenin's revolution has succeeded. The communists won. This is when we see, like, all that shit. So now
Russia's out of the war. We've got the Kaiserschlacht coming up.
DuPont and Madi Hari are...
Right.
We got to talk about the Madi Hari, right? So, who is the Madi Hari?
Madi Hari is a Dutch national.
Yep. She is a famous exotic dancer.
Yeah, she's like an exotic dancer. She actually had been living with the Boers down in Cape Town with her first husband. And I'm sorry, no, that's incorrect. She wasn't. She was living in Indonesia with her first husband because Indonesia at this time is a Dutch colony, and that is where she learned all these Eastern dances and stuff, and adopted this exotic Eastern persona as someone from Indonesia. Yeah. And she's a white woman. She's Dutch. Marriage didn't work out with that. Her kids, I think, got taken away from her or something, and she's back in Holland now, and because she's a Dutch national, Holland is the Netherlands are not part of the war; they're neutral, so she's able to cross borders, and she is acting as a spy for both the French and the Germans.
Yeah,
she's double agent.
So it's never confirmed if she's a double agent, and I do feel a little bad for her in real life. Because the reason so her husband was on the front lines of France. Mm-hmm. He was a French soldier. Her second husband, and she wanted to be able to go see him. And basically, the French were like, "If you do this for us, if you spy in Germany and you get us information, we'll like let you do this." And she's kind of a celebrity, and she would sleep with, at this point, any famous man, like politician, anything, even before she was with her husband. So then she goes down,
trying to screw her way through the German high command.
Exactly. So she had already been doing this like throughout all of Europe. Like she's known for just fucking high profile men. And she goes to Germany, and she's like trying to sleep her way to the top and get information. Eventually she's caught. And then she's kind of sold out, and the French are like, she's a double...
The French arrested her under the suspicion that she was spying for the Germans.
Yeah, but she was doing kind of her job, and they blamed her for the death of 50,000 men, kind of made her a scapegoat, and she died in real life.
Well, not that she died in real life. They had her executed. They firing squatted her.
Yeah, they firing squatted her.
The French executed her.
The French killed her, yeah.
But in this movie...
Well, hold on. One other tidbit about her. Even as a stripper, she would never show her breasts. Because she did not like her breasts. Oh. Yeah, there's pictures of her online, like bottomless, like full, like bush, but you will not see her boobs. Very sad. Anyway.
Very sad.
So the Madi Hari's there with Charles DuPont, who, by the way, dies in the movie but lived to be 70 in real life. I guess they were like, we need like an American we can say is like evil and involved. So that's the one that gets a little. That's probably the most inaccurate thing overall, almost.
Right. Well, I mean, the Madi Hari has seduced Woodrow Wilson and is doing crazy exotic dances in the Oval Office. And it's all being filmed from outside in, like, high definition black and white film. Like, did you see this?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
So basically, they're going to frame Woodrow Wilson with a scandal.
Right.
They're having sex in the Oval Office, and it's implied that she's going to blow him.
Right, and that's why the Americans have not joined the war yet.
Because Woodrow Wilson doesn't want to get this exposed.
Right.
Because it's not 1996 when getting blown in the Oval Office will end your career. By the way, I've said Charles DuPont. That's his ancestor, and I meant Alfred DuPont. Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to correct myself. Right. Anyway, so that is her role in this. She is blackmailing the American government. Yes, and DuPont is kind of the middleman. Right. At this point, Ray Fiennes is an alcoholic.
They have a funeral for the son.
Yeah,
and he like gives the worst speech ever. Like, just damning all things. His son would have hated it. And he's kind of like chastising the king for war. But he is now despondent.
Yeah.
And he's in his house, and He's just being a drunk.
And the king shows up, actually. And he's like, I changed my name from Sorbonne to Windsor.
He changed it to sound more English.
He changes it to
Saxe-Coburg.
Saxe-Coburg. He changes it to Windsor. And, and he gives him a speech, and, Ray Fiennes kind of isn't into it. And then when...
gives his son a medal.
When the nurse... Yeah, he gives his son not the Iron Cross. What's it called? Victoria Cross.
It's like the British Medal of Honor.
Yeah. And he gives it to him, he's like, okay. And he's still upset. And then the nurse, she's about to quit. And that's the reality check for Ray Fiennes.
He's got to
All it takes is
save the world.
All it takes is a hot woman for you to forget about your dead son who probably died about a week ago.
To be fair, she is quite hot.
Oh, she's hot, yeah.
So then they come together and they have a plan where they're going to, track down...
How do they find out where the...
Okay, wait, no.
There's the cashmere from the fucking rare
goes to the White House and beats up the Mata Hari.
No, he goes to an ambassador. He goes to an ambassador, played by Stanley Tucci, who shows up for some reason. He's just there. And he meets the Mata Hari in the lobby. And he...
and immediately just kicks her ass.
Well, she takes her cloth off. She takes her scarf off and whips it in front of his face, and then comes at him with a knife.
That happened to you once, didn't it?
It did, which is what I wanted to bring up. This happened to me. So when I was in high school, this kid, I was the wrestling captain, and he was not towing the line.
He was a wrestler,
and he was a wrestler as well. And he said, "Fight me," and I said, all right, you're challenging my authority. After practice, we'll go outside. And we went outside, and it's freezing cold. There's snow and ice everywhere. And he whips his shirt off, and he whips it in front of my face, blinding my vision. And then I get hit with a hook. And I eat a hook right on my jaw, and I don't go down. And I come up, and then I beat his ass. And I threw a bunch of punches, and I ended up choking him out. And
is this before or after you made him drink piss?
This is before.
Oh.
So
the piss was revenge?
The piss was just added all right, so now we got to explain this.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So this kid was, he had already fought me. I wasn't a fan, but he would do this weird habit of...
He's a filthy person.
He's a filthy person. He would pick up random Gatorade bottles on the floor.
Of the
lunchroom or wherever and drink them. So half-filled drinks.
People's garbage.
People's garbage, and he would drink it. He'd eat out of a garbage can. He's a filthy person.
He wasn't poor.
I don't know.
He wasn't.
You knew him personally more than
No, he wasn't poor. So it's he just did this.
Yeah, he just did this, be a filthy person. So one time,
he did this. So
me and the other wrestlers were like, do you think you can get him? I was like, I don't know. Let's find out. So I pissed in a Gatorade bottle.
You left it on the floor.
It was a nice looking full one. I made sure it was lemon lime.
Oh my God.
And I left it on the floor. And we're all practicing. We're running stairs, and he sees it. He's like, oh man. And he's drinking it. And he's like, this tastes like piss. Oh, it's piss. And and he's all upset, and all the wrestlers are happy. And I'm like, my trap worked.
Proudest moment?
It's up there. If I ever meet the devil, me and him will reminisce about that day.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Ugh.
So he chokes out the Mata Hari.
Yes.
And he feels the cashmere.
With her own scarf.
Yeah. And now we get a close-up of the cloth, right? And we do the Matthew Vaughn transition again, just like the mustache, where it comes up and it comes down, and we're in a new scene. And he's at the Kingsman Tailors, and he's like, where's this cloth from? They're like, it's from these goats, which are only here on the Goat Mountain.
And they show a picture of the Goat Mountain.
And Tom Brady's there, and he's just like, bye.
It's like, we gotta go.
So now it's like, all right, well, we have to assault the Goat Mountain now.
They do a plan.
And they're going to fly a plane?
They fly a plane, yep. And they're going to parachute down.
The negatives of... the film of the Mata Hari seducing the president.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that they can destroy it, and America will be free to involve itself in the European conflict.
Mind you, now this is an evil genius on the top of an isolated mountain who can't hear a plane coming. There's no planes that fly there. They have a big elevator.
Yeah,
Well,
a
they're just
plane would be noticed.
Wouldn't a propeller plane be relatively quiet though?
Still a plane. It's still an engine.
You get close enough, you're gonna hear
And he's
it.
also parachuting, right? So
Well,
But we'll get to that.
we got to talk about this because
So
shit
what's
goes
the plan?
awry.
The plan is Ray Fiennes is going to fly the plane. He's going to parachute off the plane, land on the top, take control of the elevator lift thing. Digimon Hansu then rushes in on the bottom
On
so
an
that
elevator.
so that he can get on the elevator and Ray Fiennes can pull him up. Meanwhile, they're all being covered by the girl with a sniper rifle who's going to kill dudes on the ground to clear a path for Digimon Hansu.
Who is in a den filled of goat cheese?
yes,
Is that what that was? I thought it was just the wood from the cabin.
No, it's
Yeah.
giant round things of cheese.
Goat Mountain, goat cheese.
Goat cheese, bro.
that feta.
Yeah. Although it didn't look like feta, but it was clearly wheels of cheese. Because when the shit went down and I saw some of the goat cheese gets destroyed, spoiler alert, I was very upset. I said not the goat cheese.
So Ray Fiennes, he ends up parachuting and he barely makes it, and he's in a crevice of the mountain, of Goat Mountain, and he climbs up slowly. And when he's at the top, what is he greeted with?
you are skipping some crazy
has some
details
difficulties
here. He has some
parachuting.
difficulties.
Yeah.
So
If you want to get into it,
the plane, he goes to fly the plane. He loses control. He gets stuck in the wing and has to cut himself out.
Right, and then
he
he's-
propels out. The plane is now crashing,
Right.
which the guy would hear.
The
He pulls the parachute, and it's working for a brief moment.
But then he
Gust of wind happens, crashes
into
with the
side
parachute.
of the goat
oh,
mountain.
the parachute's brand new, by the way. Like he's
It's
like,
brand
this
new.
is an
It's a
invention
new
called
invention.
a parachute.
Yeah, new invention. It fails. He then has to make custom ice picks out of his shoes.
Yeah,
they have knives
He
in
has
them.
knives. So he has to use this to get ice picks, cut off this thing. There's a goat next to him.
Yeah, the goat shows him the way.
Oh,
goat
those
shows
shoes,
them away.
by the way, are standard issue for future Kingsmen, right?
They are.
really?
They're standard issue.
Yeah.
Yes. You're right.
The old Rosa Klebb from Russia with Love special.
Yep. He does a little bit of parkour
Yes.
to get to the top.
And then the goat helps him up.
And then
No, well, first he gets headbutted
The goat
by-
headbutts him because goats are dicks. And then I wrote, "How much is too much?" Because it just kept going wrong.
So then he holds onto the goat. It pulls him up. He is
him
now
up.
confronted with.
A giant Indiana Jones man.
Yes, you're right. And they have a fight at the elevator. I think we
Right.
could
He sneaks to the elevator. He has to sneak in, and there's
Yeah.
this big guy. Yeah.
And he ends up getting saved by the girl who snipes a bunch of people, Digimon Hansu, and this big guy dies.
Yep.
Alfred DuPont falls to his
Yes,
death.
DuPont is
Yeah.
on the elevator, and they cut the elevator, and DuPont falls to his death screaming.
He dies in a plume of smoke.
Yes, and then Digimon Hansu is catapulted up to the top where he gets involved in fighting the
Cuts a
giant
head
Indiana
off.
Jones man and cuts his head off.
Midair, mind you. It's so ridiculous.
Then they storm through. They kick a bunch of people's asses
They
on
get
Goat
the
Mountain.
film, they throw it down to the girl. She goes away with it. So now that mission accomplished, but they've realized that this is the lair of the evil Scotsman. So we must
Gotta get him. We gotta get him.
It's all out assault on the Scotsman. So now the two of them run inside and do battle.
Yup, and they fight. Ray Fiennes is fighting him, and the guy is like, I'm not a gentleman. Fuck you. I don't have a code of ethics.
He
Well, he
reveals
said-
himself to be Kitchener's aide.
Yep.
Yes, who I believe they took inspiration from the real guy
Right.
Dunesk. That's my personal thought.
Right.
And
And he has a cool gadget.
He's got a sword
He
with
has
a
a
gun on
sword
it.
gun, and he shoots Digimon.
Yes.
well, Digimon takes a bullet for Ray
Takes
Fiennes.
a bullet, and
Right.
you're like, no.
So they end up having a fight. Ray Fiennes is gonna fall off the cliff. He's about to die.
They did some cool stuff in this fight.
And then it's a cool
They
fight.
did like a Zorro
It's a lot of
homage,
fun.
and
I
yeah.
love the shot. It's a close shot of the sword from almost a first person.
It's a little
angle.
dizzying, but it's cool.
Yeah. And anyway, the goat ends up knocking the man off the mountain.
Well, what if, you're also forgetting the shield. There was a random phalanx shield,
It's a Gaelic shield.
Gaelic shield.
It
Blocks a grenade and sends him through a wall.
Yeah.
It's really over the top.
Right.
But yeah, goats are assholes.
The goat impales his leg.
Yeah.
But it's the same goat he chopped his horn
Yes.
off in the beginning.
It's Man Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it impales the villain's leg, and then doesn't it push him off the mountain?
Yeah, I think so.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Oh,
push
Ray
him off the
Fiennes.
mountain.
Oh, Ray Fiennes.
grabs him.
Yeah, and he's holding him by
and
the
he's
tie.
holding him.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, "You can't do it. You won't kill me." And he's like, "The man before you wouldn't have, but now I'm going to be the man my son wanted me to be or wanted to be." And he cuts the cashmere thing and he falls to his death.
He cuts it with the Victoria Cross.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
Really cool ending.
And then he's like, "How we're getting down from the mountain?"
We don't know.
Yeah, they don't know yet, but they got to figure it out.
But
Then
now the Americans join the war, and history can play out as it does.
Yeah. And then we cut to the Kingsman, the first
tailor
group,
shop.
the Kingsman tailor shop, and Ray Fiennes now has established a cabal of agents, and it's going to be the first Kingsman, which don't answer to a government and
Does that link up with the other movies?
Yes.
Right.
And this is the start of that
And
secret agency.
They start to say what their code names are, which are all Knights of the Round Table.
Yes.
In the first movie, they
what
tell
they
you
are?
those code names. They all have the same code name, no matter who you are.
So like if you die and you're Lancelot, you're going to
I
be
have to be
replaced
replaced
By
Lancelot.
Lancelot.
A new
Yep.
Lancelot
It's
will
really
come.
cool.
And that's
the movie.
That's the movie.
That's the movie.
Now there is a post credit. Did you guys see it?
I did not because I was
Okay.
busy as hell.
So at the end of the movie, and this is something that when I say what it is, you're going to know why it enrages me. So at the end of the movie, Eric Jan Hanhusen is not dead, right?
The German guy.
The German guy, the hypnotist dude, and he meets up with Lenin, and Lenin is like, "I'm so strong on the left. I need someone from the right." And who walks in?
Hitler?
Hitler. Oh my god.
Oh, that's funny.
And he's like, "Lenin, I would like you to meet Adolf Hitler."
So that's what angered you?
Well, it angers me anytime Hitler is called right wing. Because the Nazis are not right wing. They're leftist.
But they didn't say be a right. They said they need someone.
No, they said we need the right hand, meaning the right wing, to be as strong as the left wing. And
Balance it out.
and anyone knows,
Yeah, I
like
know.
you guys know, it bothers me so much
Yes.
when the Nazis are classified as
Right wing, yeah.
as right wing. They're leftist. They're socialists. Like their economic
Yeah.
policies, everything about them is leftist. And fucking reading economic books about the fucking Nazis if you're gonna come at me with
Or
this.
ju- or
There's
just-
4
or
hour
just their
videos
name.
well, people will be like, then you think not buffalo wings are made of buffalo because they're fucking idiots. No, there's 4 hour videos on YouTube breaking down the economics of the fucking Nazis. They're leftists. They're socialists. May not be your brand of socialism or leftism, but it is what it fucking is.
Yeah.
And that enrages me anytime it happens. So, what are your thoughts on the Kingsman?
What a fucking ride this movie was. It was fun as hell. I haven't had this much fun watching a movie in forever.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, definitely. What do you rate it out of 10?
I'm giving it another 8. This was just a blast. I feel weird putting this on the same level as like a great like classic movie.
But they're
An
different.
epic, yeah.
They're different things, and you
Yeah.
get different things out of them. So
It's opinions.
it was a blast. This movie was a fucking blast. It's an 8. It's an 8.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm going 9. I'm going 9.
9. Wow.
I loved it.
I give it.
I hate action movies like at their core, and this was. I also am not a big fan of spy movies, and this was just blew me out of the water, just like all the Kingsmen. I loved it.
This is an 8. It's an 8 from me. Love it. Love this movie. It's great. I have no complaints about it. I hope Matthew Vaughn makes a million movies like this.
Oh yeah, I see all of them.
I would love to see them give him a Bond movie, even though I've seen it with Kingsman.
That's what it is.
Give
right?
him Bond, and like he could do a PG-13. I just think the action would be so good.
But do you want Bond to be that silly? Would
Yes.
you like a silly Bond?
I love every flavor of Bond. That's what's great. There's
Look
always
at
another
Roger
one.
Moore in like the 80s stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sure about
That
his
was that
personal.
more silly. It just can't be.
It's campy. It's like Batman 66.
Because like the Kingsman is like it's a level of silly that is unseen.
Yeah.
Like
So I do want to talk real quick before we go about what the movie I feel is about. So real quick, I want to talk about what the movie's about, and I feel it is about a victory of gentlemanlyism, or gentlemanism, being a gentleman over like savagery. Like, and if you think of the way the villains are, they're all like they all have values that run counter to like aristocracy,
aristocracy.
Yeah, aristocracy and like gentleman behavior. Like Rasputin's like a savage shoving the cakes in. He has a big beard. Ray Fiennes, when he's at his lowest point, he has a beard and he's disheveled. And it's when he's clean shaven and and a stiff upper lipped Brit that they could find victory. Like a Scottish accent is considered like a rougher accent, right? The villain is portrayed as that.
The villain is against social norms, and he wants to turn things on its head. It's almost communist in that way, like the social revolution, the Marxist revolution, but he doesn't come out and say that at all. He's mad at England for some nationalistic reason, but it's also about just the upper class.
Yeah, exactly.
In that sense, there's almost I'm not going to say conservative, almost like a Christian tinge to the movie.
Well, this is another thing about Matthew Vaughn. I suspect that he is a secret conservative filmmaker, and I will give you a couple of reasons why.
This movie definitely had those.
This movie definitely has some conservative values hidden in there, right? About traditional values and stuff like that. Lenin is portrayed as an evil shitbag.
Right.
Communists are not portrayed favorably. In one of his movies, he has Barack Obama's head explode.
Oh yeah.
The villains in the two other Kingsman movies, one of them is a Greta Thunberg style eco person who wants to end global warming at all costs, and then the other person is someone that wants to repeal all drug laws, and those are his villains.
Right.
And
he's almost a trad dude.
I'm convinced, and he never has spoken openly about his politics. But I'm a big fan of his work, and I'm not seeing any other filmmaker putting shit like this out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it gets me thinking big time.
Right.
I think you're right.
It's about the political revolution without the social revolution, which is almost Americanism. He does not look favorably on the monarchs. Like I said, they're portrayed cartoonishly and almost imbecilic, except for George V. England is immune to any criticism.
Well, he's English.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's going to sit here and be like monarchy is good government and in that way. So there's almost a Christian tradition in that it is right or okay to rebel against a man-made institution, but not God's institution, which would be the social hierarchies of the world. So, and that's what communism does. I'm not going to put any words in this guy's mouth. This is just how
we're interpreting and what we think of him. Right. He could be a communist for all we know.
Right.
That he's I'm just trying to make a good movie. But I'm a fan of his regardless of his politics. I think he makes awesome movies, and I hope he makes a million more like this. So, would you guys be down for a sequel if he did it?
Oh, yeah.
World War II?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm in for
100%.
Yeah.
This is great.
All right. So, any final thoughts?
Well, no,
I think we
covered everything.
Yeah. All right. So, let's get out of here. Say goodbye, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
So, again, want to give a big thanks to TSD Town Studios for letting us do the show here. Big appreciated to Walt Bry Q. Big thanks to Get 'em for helping us out with audio and getting the podcast hopefully sounding it as good as it does.
Follow Reviewing History on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Thank you. Send an email at reviewinghistorypod@gmail.com. Send a
you can only go so far.
Letterboxd.com. I'm Brian Rupert on there. I write reviews for every single movie I watch, and I rank them. In our show notes, you will see all of us publish our list ranking the movies we watch for the show. Other than that, thanks for joining us, guys, and we will see you next time. Bye.
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 I am the P-Man!